I think the best tip is to tell them to just redline, dump the clutch, and pull it in right away.
Wait, what?
Don't sue us. Pulling in, not doing that, for sure not doing that. What is going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Progression Session. I'm here with Jared. Today we're going to talk about how I learned how to coast, how he learned how to coast, and just what really helped us figure out how to do that, and kind of what we're working on. I know he mentioned talking about working on no throttle hands on his bike. I want to work on some stand-up stuff and also get on my no throttle hand game, and usually that comes into play with coasting. So Jared, how did you learn how to coast? You were talking about it earlier, and I really like the way you learned versus how I learned.
So I cheated on a Grom first, but you basically get to the point where you're dipping and letting off the throttle, and right at this like point where you would be able to do a no throttle hand is where I pull in the clutch.
Nice. Okay, cool. Personally learned how to coast from I learned how to coast really actually on this bike, which is, I mean, basically a big Grom if you really want to think about it. But I learned from pulling in, not doing that, for sure not doing that, but pulling in right before balance point and kind of getting used to where the bike kind of likes to sit back and really hang on. I'm gonna do it right now so I can actually fall, but I would pull in like right about there, and I'd let the bike kind of fall so I could get used to the weightlessness of it. You were explaining it, it made a little bit more sense, like being at that no throttle zone and having to feel it. I was just kind of guessing when I first started and praying to God that I didn't throw myself.
When I first did it, my first couple attempts were actually on a F07, but I was kind of dumb and I started trying to rev in my first couple attempts also, and it was so sketchy. I almost pulled a Giiaxi, but that was way before Giiaxi was trying them. And yeah, definitely when you do these, don't give them any gas in the beginning.
Smooth. So smooth. Skirt. You're crazy for doing that at the end of one. Oh my god. That's wild. But yeah, so basic steps to learning how to coast. I would start in first, really second gear, because first gear is more for circle work and slow work. I'm assuming you know that.
I think first gear would be harder because you're going to be finding so much more engine brake that if you're like, you might just go to the wrong spot.
Like he was saying, you know, getting behind balance point and holding it there. See him really see the weight of the bike sitting back on the suspension when he pulls the clutch in. You want to catch the weight of the bike because that engine brake completely disappears. That engine brake, you know, there's a difference between engine brake coasting and actual coasting. You know, learning how to engine brake coast, which is what I'm going to do right here, is a good way to learn how to coast as well. Like, I'm totally off the throttle right now, but I'm letting the engine brake keep me there. Like, feathering the brake and rolling off the throttle is a good way to start. So you get used to basically rolling off the throttle and just holding the wheelie. That's when you want to start to kind of pull in the clutch and use the same amount of brake control that you're using in engine braking. But obviously when you take away the engine brake, the brake is going to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, you gotta be way more careful when you're braking while coasting. And you also, like, you'll notice when you start the dip, if you pull in the clutch, you'll fall back because the engine brake is doing a little bit of foot brake work for you.
So watch his suspension. I'll zoom in on it right here, but see that? See how his suspension compresses? That's what you're looking for when you're coasting, and you want to hold that there. And a lot of the times people screw that up because that initial setback throws a lot of people off. On his foot, he's barely feathering the brake, which is keeping it exactly where you need to be, and that's the whole game to coasting. And that comes into play with like circles and everything else too, is that foot brake control. But I don't know, coasting has been one of my favorite things to learn. I love clutch work. I love rev limiters, even though my bike may not love them.
I do too. This thing's gonna blow up. Oh shit.
The coasting is really important to get that down and to really have that control, because I don't know if you personally looped a rev limiter coaster, but I have, and it is terrible.
I haven't, but I've come close. I get kind of sketchy sometimes.
What would you say your top 3 tips to learning coasting is?
So I would find that that balance point, or like right behind balance point where it's like a dip where you can pull in the clutch and work on getting some like long distance coasters. And then if you're trying to like learn a rev limiter coaster, I would only do like really baby revs while you're coasting, and then once you can do those really long, then I would maybe do like a 1-1 and like a couple like tiny revs to test if you really got a good coast, and then hit the rev limiter and let off kind of quick so that your bike can go ahead and start getting ready to dive. When you start like bringing the throttle into it, you start forgetting to be really careful on the foot brake. So it's like you'll be able to coast easier when you're only thinking about the foot brake. Then you bring both in and it gets sketchy.
Looped one on, not this bike, of course. I have a habit of crashing other people's bikes, but I looped a 250X that was not mine right when I was learning rev limiters, and I hit one, and I let the clutch go too early because I hit a bump, and I've never hit the ground so fast in my entire life. When I'm doing coasters, like at least on the Supermoto, I really look at the front fender and just the sound of the engine brake, like the roll off of the throttle, just like you were saying. And that, I hope I got that on video. That setback, I just pulled that in and I was a little too far forward, but I wasn't on the brake, and that kind of shot me back to the balance point initially. And that's another way to kind of get used to that. It's a little more aggressive and I personally enjoy, but that's another way to kind of feel how far back you can go versus how far forward you can go. But yeah, I mean, really the things that I would say to learning is just getting used to pulling in front of, right in front of balance point, and kind of letting it down just like that. Starting putting it back down, even in first or second gear if you're scared, you know. First gear, pop up, I'm right in front of balance point, I'm pulling it in, I'm putting it back down. I'm not quite where I need to be, but I'm getting right used to where it needs to be.
I think the best tip is to tell them to just redline, dump the clutch, and pull it in right away.
Wait, what?
Not really.
Let me see the longest coaster right here. We got the whole lane. Let me see, let's watch his bike.
Let me see, maybe I'll get a longer run up. I don't know, this lot's making me look like a worm.
So watch his build up, see how fast he's going, and he's holding it. Just like that, and see how he brings it back a little bit more to keep steady it out. That's exactly what you want to do when you're coasting. You know, if you're getting kind of out of control, lay off the brake and let it fall back a little bit more. Coasting for me is like total dead weight of a motorcycle, and it's just you, no engine, no throttle, no nothing. And that's like really, really impressive and really, really nasty, at least in my opinion, if you can get those nice and cold and smooth and on command like that. And I see them no throttle hands, dude. I saw you.
No
you can do them on the Grom, you can do it on that thing, dude.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's about all I can do right now.
There you go. You got it.
I thought about trying to cheat it with the idle, and just catch idle, but I don't know.
It helps. I started working on no throttle hands more because I wrecked a couple no-handers, and I really didn't like it. It sucked. I felt like so disrespected because I would go back and I'd grab it and I looped. So now I'm trying to get better holding them out instead of like letting go and then grabbing and then yeeting myself. But it's a tough trick for sure, especially like this lot's a little slanted. We're gonna blame the watch.
Yeah, and like for me, I wobble so much on this bike. Maybe if I do third gear with less engine brake or something.
Nice. Yeah.
I can't really hook my foot that much on these. It's pretty uncomfortable.
Can you shift lock on those things?
I don't really know how to shift lock. Maybe I guess I can. I can try it.
Totally a dirt bike thing, but hey, it might work. I've never done it on a sport bike.
Okay, I'm trying it. Let's see. Hopefully I won't loop. Yeah, I can shift lock. It's kind of weird, but
definitely, I don't do it very often. I do it when I do no-handers, so I wonder if you can, I don't know if you can, or not no-handers, one-handers, but so shift locking, like I'm in second, I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but I'm in third and I'm hooked underneath third gear. I'm holding the shifter up, so when I clutch up, my foot is basically my other hand, and I can drop back and not really have an issue holding on because I'm shift locked. And it's totally a dirt bike thing, but I think you can do it on sport bikes too. It's a great tool. I'm trying to learn hand drags, and that's the only way I can get close.
Pause. Sorry, future Gia popping in here. So I actually ended up hitting this trick later this lot session, and I couldn't figure out how to get it into the video. And not only did I hit it, but Jared hit it too. So I'm going to insert both of those clips right now.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
After many hand drag tries later, Jared hit his, I kind of hit mine, so all in all, I feel like it was a pretty good progression session. You hitting your very first, like that's dope as hell. So congratulations to you. Just a recap about coasting, you know, don't be afraid of it, just try it. You know, it's really not as hard as you may think it is if you've got foot brake control, and really any brake control. You could do it with handbrake too, but if you got that brake control, then you know, you're just gonna be able to pick that up really easy. The 3 tips that I would give personally, you know, start to learn to pull in before balance point and just get used to the weightlessness of the bike. Really get used to balancing the weight with the foot brake. Don't stab it, feather it. And all in all, the biggest tip that helped me is don't panic. You know, when you feel that weight, don't panic. Just trust the bike and trust your ability, and you should be able to do it. And Jared, is there anything you might want to include with that?
Step 1, don't try to coast if you don't even know how to dip. Step 2, I mean, honestly, it's really one of those things where you just gotta try it and you gotta figure out where your bike's point is. So the real biggest tip is just to not try to get right into revving with it when you first start, because coasters are already such a kind of like sketchy trick in the beginning. So you just want to focus on one thing at a time as much as possible. And yeah, if you're not, like, I would also say if you can't already do like really long engine brake coasts, I would try to do that before the clutch, because that will help you get used to like knowing when you can foot brake and when you can let off. And if you're not already able to do that, then at the second you start trying to coast, you're gonna fall back real fast and you're probably just gonna slam the brake. So if you can't do like engine brake coasters, I would try to learn that first.
Thank you guys for watching and joining us. This is my very first dual vlog with Jared. Thank you for coming out, man. This was dope. I'm excited to film some more content with you in the future, and you know, this is really cool. I love to ride with other riders and get really in depth to the sport. You know, it's dope. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, let me know what you guys want to see from me. Make sure you subscribe to Jared and check out his videos. He's a killer. He's doing awesome. Yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. I appreciate. There's a baby in the middle of the lot right now.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what if I go run him over and stop you.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding.
Child abuse. Don't sue us. But yeah, let us know what you guys want to see. You know, subscribe, like, comment, all that fancy stuff. I appreciate the support always, and we will see y'all in the next one.
Laters.